Welcome everyone to Jetersblessings. This is Marjorie, and in today's video, I'll be participating in an Easter DIY challenge hosted by Heidi Sonboul's DIY. And in the description box below, you'll find a link to the playlist and her DIY channel. So today I'm making 3 variations of Easter crosses. All 3 frames were from the Dollar Tree. For this first wreath, I'm going to make a very simple pull-through wreath. Now I've already used this burlap in a different project from last year, and I'm just reusing it to make this burlap wreath. So for those of you that like wreaths and are kind of hesitant or scared by them, this is a really good method for you to start with. I know this is what I started with when I first began working wreaths. So in this, you have different sections of the cross. So where my fingers are, those are called crossbars, and in between the crossbars is called a section. So with this, what you want to do is you want to start at the top, and with the second wire, sorry, my burlap keeps getting away from me, but in the second wire, you want to pull the burlap on both sides of it. And the best thing to do is once you've got it pulled up with the bar in the middle of the burlap, then you want to measure to make sure that both sides are even. And then all you do is you just keep pulling up like you see me do here. Now there's no particular amount of pull-throughs that you do. It just depends on how full you like your wreath. So for me, I like a very full wreath, and so I tend to put a lot of different pulls in there to get the different ruffles. And you also want to take into consideration that the more ruffles you put in there, that bar in the middle, you will eventually hide through all the ruffles. And that's one of the main things that you do want to make sure you do as well. So here I've got enough of the pull-throughs that I want in that one section. So I'm just going under the middle square in the middle, and then I just start on the next bar right below. I don't do anything different with my burlap. I just continue to pull through in that section the same way I did in the very top section. So this is what it looks like when it's all pulled through. And as you see, once you cut it off at the end, the ends of the burlap that ravel will cover the tops and bottoms, and you'll see they'll cover the sides of the rails, and you'll have all of that covered up. So now what you do is you take the second middle bar and you do the exact same thing that you did with the other side. And this is how full it is once you've got both sides covered in the burlap. So now you want to take the burlap and start covering the sides of the cross. So as you see, I just twisted the burlap. I didn't cut it. I just twisted it, and now we're going to start pulling it through one of the middle rails. If it's easier for you, you can definitely cut the burlap and then start like you did at the very beginning. You can do that as well. So you'll see here where I'm fixing it. If you don't have both ends of the burlaps match, then you'll have one side that will have a bigger ruffle, and the other versus the other side, and it'll kind of look a little different. So then all you have to do is just pull it on the shorter side to even it out. So as you see, it's a really full wreath now. And so the only other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this pretty simple, and I'm going to make a bow to go in the middle. So I've got 3 different types of wired ribbon, 2 that are 1.5 inch, and then the burlap one is a 2.5 inch. Now I cut 24-inch strips, and then what I'm doing is folding over the ribbon in half, and then halfway again longwise, and doing a dovetail. So I cut 3 of each of the ribbons. And again, it's all about how full you like your bows to be is going to determine how many loops you want for your ribbon. I personally do like the fuller bows as well, and so I like to have a lot of loops. Now this is a very, very easy bow, especially if you have problems with your hands. I have arthritis and carpal tunnel, and so this is a pretty easy way to make a bow. And especially for those of you who like to make bows but are kind of scared and don't think your bows turn out well, you cannot fail on this bow. So all I'm going to do is fold them all over halfway, then lengthwise halfway again, and then do the dovetail. So once I have all that done, I'm going to alternate the ribbons. And so what I'm doing is from the folded end, I measure 5 inches, and that's where I'm pinching the ribbons. And that's going to give me my 5-inch loops. Again, depending on how big you want your bow to be, it's going to determine how long you want your loops. So if you want a wider bow, then you want to go ahead and go like with a 7-inch or a 6-inch loop. But for something that's doesn't need as big of a bow like this, the 5-inch works really well. And it works really well also with other small round wreaths. So once I've got them all alternated and together, I'm taking my chenille stem and I just give it a really good twist to make it tight. So then I take the tails and I split them up, and in between there I put the chenille stem under there again, and this is why. So I moved the burlap off the wire frame, and in the middle is where I'm taking the chenille stems, pulling it through so I can attach the ribbon. Then all you do from here is you just fluff, fluff, fluff. This is one of the most fun parts to me in making a wreath, because I love bows and I just love seeing the outcome of bows. And I'm telling you, to make the easiest and nicest bows, in my opinion, is you definitely have to use the wired ribbon. So what I'm doing with the tails is I'm just running it through my index and my thumb, and I'm giving it a little curve to it, so it makes it a little fluffier as well. So this is the final product. I wanted to keep this one really simple for those that may be a beginner, and as you see, it is really pretty, very simple, but you can definitely add more things. You can add florals, greenery, anything like that to enhance your wreath as well. So for this second wreath, again, I'm using the Dollar Tree cross frame, excuse me, and some nautical rope. I actually use 4 of the, I believe it was 7.5 feet long nautical rope. Now I actually saw this wreath for the very first time by Kathy with My DIY. She made this and it was just absolutely gorgeous. It was so simple and just gorgeous. So what I do is I take and pull about a 2-inch tail, and I'm sorry for being out of frame, but I was really trying to get this to work. This was the first time I've built one of these wreaths, so and then I just kind of weaved it in and out, up over, and then under, over and under, and then you just go back to the next side and you do the same thing. So I'm pulling it through, and it's a little time consuming just because of the length of the nautical rope. But if you get the thicker one, like this one that's actually at the Dollar Tree, then it definitely works really well. And so once I've got it, now I'm going over to the other side and I'm going to alternate. So I'm going to go over, then under, over and under, and then I'll just keep doing that until I finish the 1 roll of the jute cord. Now you will have to pay attention because you can kind of see here where I messed up on the second row, where I actually have it like under and over and then under and over, but I have like the unders on both sides the same way and the over on both sides the same way instead of alternating. So I do eventually go back and redo that and get it done correctly. And then the other thing is you want to make sure that when you're doing it, you're holding it pretty tightly. So here, the 1 rope finished the very top section, and all I did was just doing the same method, but I started on the side. Again, this is one of those, if it's easier for you, then you can definitely cut the rope and start again, but just be sure to leave yourself about a 1 to 2 inch tail. So here again, I started on the side with a whole new rope, and then as you see, I'm going to go from the side all the way down to the bottom, and I don't cut it, but I just start looping it up and down over on the long sections or the bottom of the wreath. I'm sorry, I may not be explaining it very well, but hopefully you can definitely see and understand what I'm doing in the video. So there it is, all finished with all the jute. And in the middle, I don't put the rope in the middle. Kathy, when she did hers, she actually did. But what I'm going to do is I'm taking this foam piece from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to cut it down, and I'm actually going to glue it to the middle because I'm going to add florals to this, and this is what I'm going to use as the base to add my florals in. So here, before I add my florals, I decide to make another bow. This is pretty simple as well. You see this in most of my wreath videos. I make this bow all the time, where I just grab a couple ribbons and layer them on top of one another, and then I fold them over, measuring out how far you want your loops. So if you want your loops to be 5 inches, from one end of the ribbon to the other end of the ribbon, you want to measure that as 10. So that way when you fold it in half like this, your loops on both sides will end up being 5. Now all I'm doing is taking it and doing about a 1/2 inch slit on both sides. And now I'm measuring out my tails. And again, it really depends on how long you want your tails, but this is a smaller wreath and I don't want it to cover up too much of the wreath. So I'm cutting shorter tails on here, but it all just depends on what you like. So then I'll take all my little tails and I'll stack them, and then I will fold the ends of it in. Oh, well, first, I'm sorry. I'm going to fold it in half and then create those same slits like I did with the loops. And then I will layer the loops on top of the tails and add my chenille stem. And then I will just make sure I do a really good tight twist on those. So now I'm going to fold the tails long ways and then cut from the folded end up towards the wired part of the ribbon, and this gives us our dovetail. So here I'm just fluffing up the ribbon, just alternating it from end to end. And the reason you cut the slits is for this reason here. When you're trying to fluff out your bows and you're alternating your ribbon, one going up, one going down, it allows you to twist them and maneuver them so you can actually have a full bow in the middle, versus sometimes if your slits are too small, you can't really get the bow full in the middle. You'll see where it's kind of more flattened out in the middle. So it is important to get the right size slits on the ends. So all I do is I take the chenille stem and I attach it to the frame through the middle. Now, after of course the project is done, as I've said, I love full bows, I love full wreaths. Had I really noticed it when I was creating this wreath, I should have probably used shorter stems of greenery and florals, because as you'll see when this is done, even though the wreath turns out beautiful, it is a little bit harder to see the top end, the top portion of the wreath. And so I probably should have made the bow maybe just a teeny bit smaller as well, and had the lengths of my florals and my greenery to be a little shorter than what it was. But this is definitely a lesson learned for me, but I still love the results of this Easter wreath. It's just so beautiful with the lilies and the lilacs. So for the third and final wreath cross, I have this He is Risen cross metal sign. I've had it for a couple years and I don't recall where I got it. I got it either, I think I had to have gotten it at Hobby Lobby a couple years after the Easter sale, along with that cross wreath frame I got at Hobby Lobby. And so what I do is I just add a piece of the floral foam, and that's what I'm using as to attach my greenery in. So I just glue that on top of the chicken wire, and then I actually glued part of the cross, the metal cross, on top of the floral as well, just to keep it sitting down properly. And then I just go around adding my eucalyptus. I have some beautiful hydrangeas from the Dollar Tree. So on this one, I do not add a bow. I didn't want to take away from the beautiful cross and the statement that it had. So I thought the florals and the greenery was just perfect for the wreath. And I really loved how this one came out. And that's one of the fun things about using greenery and florals and wreath is you can just have at it and have fun, and you never know what you're gonna get until you're done with it. So, but I did want to say thank you to Heidi for hosting this, and I want to thank all of you for stopping by, taking time out of your day to visit, and I hope that we'll see you next time in the next video. You guys have a very blessed day.